Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In the most recent video, I mentioned that we are coming up to the equinox. Of course, that's true. We are coming up to the equinox. Here we are in the recent enough past, close enough to mid-winters, the sun there at its lowest. Moving forward into this year, the sun still rising at this time of the year, coming past the equinox and then continuing up to the highest point for midsummer. I mentioned in a past, much further past video, where I talked about the analemma and the analemma from the equator. If you are at the equator, and I will try and get as close to it as I can here, I have the capacity here to be that precise, to be that exact and accurate, to be exactly at the equator. It's calling it north. That feels unfair. Maybe south/north if you're exactly at 00 degrees. That seems unfair, but I won't worry about it too much. I mentioned in a past video that if you are in fact at the equator, and let's get the sun right into the middle of the sky, that will do. I'm only eyeballing it, but that looks like it will do. If you are at the equator, then the sun will reach its furthest south. Or, yeah, it's further south. We'll say it's further south here for the midwinter, and then it will come up. It will come across the zenith of the sky, and then it will reach its furthest north for the summer. So if you are at the equator, the sun is actually at its highest, it's closest to the middle of the sky, around the equinoxes. The sun will be at its lowest either at midsummer or at midwinter, depending on what side of the equator you are and what you call your seasons. So it's very different when you're at the equator. This means that for places at the equator on certain times of the year, usually close to the equinoxes, the sun is directly overhead. But this can happen at other times for other locations on Earth as well. So I am going to, I think we might as well start by hopping to the sun. There we go. I hope I can do this. There we are. We'll put ourselves, right, we're bang on the sun's equator. That's fantastic. And we're going to get rid of these things and we are going to find the Earth. Here we go. So if you are on Earth, if you are in between the tropics, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, if you are in between those parts of the planet, then you will have the sun directly overhead at some point of the year, more than likely. So we can see here, whatever's in the middle of our viewpoint, that's directly under the sun. So we can see it making a huge track across the Pacific. It's cutting across some of the Caribbean there, cutting across Africa, cutting across the Middle East. This, and I'll see if I can, I'd have to go back a little. Hawaii would be back here somewhere in the middle of the Pacific, under the clouds, which seems odd. You know, we don't think of Hawaii as a cloudy place, but in there somewhere would be Hawaii. And Hawaii is within the tropics. It is, well, I guess it's within the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, at least. I often forget which one is the top one or the northernmost one. But Hawaii is one of those places where on certain days of the year, when the sun is directly overhead, I'll see if I can do this a little bit more accurately, because I usually just kind of click around. But I should be getting a city pop up. There we go, when I'm close. Mauna Loa, that's in Hawaii. There we go. So here we are, only 19 degrees north, so close to the equator here. And we'll come up to having the sun in the middle of the sky, or at least halfway between east and west. So something like this. There is a day of the year where the sun is directly overhead for people who are in Hawaii. And we can see here, this is pretty close to one equinox. We'll come back a little bit. We can see here that the sun varies between being its furthest south for midwinter. There we go. And it really is in the south. Because we're so close to the equator, it will come up to the zenith and then come right up to its highest point in the sky, somewhere around northern summer, because we're in the northern part of the tropics. So it'll come up to its highest somewhere around there. I think it's actually the 18th, at least it was the 18th in 2023 when I checked. And so we're just bang on 12 here, so I think it's actually a little further ahead. Just a little bit. Something like that. Yeah, 20 past 12. I think this is close. to double check, because I wanted to eyeball it first. I am quite close. So it must be on a different day for 2025. Let's see if we can come through the days a little bit here. It comes down. There it is at the zenith, closer to the 18th of the 5th. And there we are, closer to 18 minutes past 12. So I was off by a month, which isn't great. But again, it varies for different years. It does vary either side. But there we go. There's the sun at the exact highest point of the sky. Lahaina noon. It is the highest noon because it is when the sun is directly overhead. Lahaina noon doesn't mean the highest noon. It means the cruel sun. Because this is terrible. You can't really get any shade unless you have something directly above you. Any straight standing object that's directly under the sun like this isn't going to cast a shadow. So you can't stand next to a house and get shade. The sun will be directly overhead. You can't stand next to a wall and get shade because the wall isn't going to cast a shadow to the side. It would only cast a shadow straight down. An umbrella would work. If you hold an umbrella or a parasol, I suppose, directly over your head, then you could get protection from the cruel sun. But the sun really beats down on your brains when it's directly overhead. There is, and I think this is a particularly interesting thing about the highest noon, there is a time, and I am going to be so far off here, I don't really know where it is because, I'm not used to looking for it. But I do know that there is a time when the sun passes directly overhead for Mecca, the Muslim holy site, the holy site in the Islamic faith. And that is an interesting thing because if the sun is directly overhead, there will be no shadow for that location. Anywhere else will cast a shadow if you're a little bit off the exact zenith. So what I've done is entered in the exact coordinates, just so that I am absolutely in the right place. We will come forward to daytime, and there we go. Because we are already on what should approximately be the right date, it is approximately in the right location. It's not exactly in the right location, so let's bring it back a little bit. We'll bring it back to there. I don't need to know exactly. So there is a date. Here we are on what looks like the 27th of the 5th, 2025, at just almost 11 o'clock, where the sun is directly overhead for this particular location on the Earth. If the sun is directly overhead, there will cast no shadow. There will be no shadow cast by any straight upright object directly at this location. But if you're a few degrees to the west or to the south or to the north or to the east, as long as you know what time the sun is directly overhead for this exact location, then you can use a stick and its shadow to point in this direction. And by measuring the length of the shadow, you can work out how far away you are as well, as long as you know the length of the stick and a few other things. The how far away you are doesn't matter too much. All that matters for this particular measurement is the direction. If you want to know where this location is from your location, all you need to do is set up a stick at the time where it would be noon for this location and measure the shadow that that stick casts. The opposite direction of that shadow, the shadow will point away from the location where the sun is at its highest point. So you'll know if you're to the east or if you're to the west. You'll know if you're to the north or if you're to the south. And it's pretty accurate, which is useful if for any reason you need to know where this specific location is. So if you need to face this direction a few times a day, knowing that there is a date where you can locate it using the sun and its shadow is very useful. You could do the same for Hawaii. If you wanted to know exactly where Hawaii was relative to you, so you could face in the direction of Hawaii, all you'd need to do is erect a pillar, set up a stick on the correct date and measure the shadow. It'll point you in the right direction. What is interesting, and I mentioned this in another interesting thing, a further interesting point, which I mentioned in the previous video where I talked about the analemma, the solar calendar is very useful if you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, because you will have, you know, the summer when the sun is high, the winter when the sun is low. If you're at the equator, the solar calendar isn't quite as useful, because summer and winter are just the extreme point of the sun in opposite direction, and the equinoxes are when it's directly overhead. A lunar calendar can be even more useful if you're on the equator, so a lot of things along the equator use a lunar calendar, including the Islamic religious calendar. But when the sun is directly overhead, that's decided by the solar calendar. So here in the north, where we use a solar calendar, we'll never know exactly what day the full moon is on unless we go and calculate it, because the solar calendar and the lunar calendar don't line up. And if you use a lunar calendar, then you'll need to do specific calculations to figure out what date the sun will be directly overhead, because it will vary greater in a lunar calendar than it would in a solar calendar. So just a couple of interesting things about where the sun is, how it looks when it gets directly overhead. I will hopefully talk about the sublunar point soon. I wanted to do this video on the subsolar point before I talk about the sublunar point, but there is a sublunar point as well. However, it is far more variable. Of course, the moon goes around us a lot quicker than we go around the sun. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you found these strung together tidbits as interesting as I did. If you did, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you'd like to see more. You can also check out my website, queevinscontent.ie, if you'd like to read some of this material, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.